Are you a doctor from the UK, Ireland, Canada, or the United States? Are you interested in working as a doctor in Australia? If so, then this video is for you. I'm going to talk to you about the Competent Authority Pathway, which is a process that you can use to get registered in Australia. I'm going to take you through the steps that's involved. Hi there, Anthony, the Career Doctor, back again with another video to help you manage your career in medicine. If you're new and you find this video helpful, then why not leave a like or leave a comment or a question below. And if you're a regular and you're finding the content useful, well, why haven't you subscribed now and why don't you turn on notifications? So I know a lot of my subscribers have been waiting for this particular video, so if you have been, then I do suggest that you watch it all the way through to get all the information that you need. There'll also be a competition at the end. I'll be giving out a cool prize to the best comment for this video, so wait for the end to hear about the competition for the comment. We should probably give the competition a name. What about Comtest? Thanks to How Ridiculous for that idea. So today we're talking about the Competent Authority Pathway for registration in Australia. We're going to talk about what it is, who it's for, and the steps involved in the process. Now, as per usual with these sort of videos, I do have to put a caution out front. I try to give you the very best advice about these sort of matters, but they are complex, they are complicated, there's lots of institutions involved, things change over time, and individual circumstances will vary. So it's always important to get a range of advice. Okay, got that out of the way, let's get into it. So the Competent Authority Pathway is for both non-specialist as well as specialist international medical graduates, including general practitioners who want to become eventually generally registered in Australia. The Medical Board of Australia, let's just pause for a minute. So I'm going to use the term the board, Medical Board of Australia, quite a lot in this video. And then I'll probably be talking about other boards occasionally. So if I do use the term the board or board, just assume I'm talking about the Medical Board of Australia. So the board has approved a number of authorities in other countries as quote unquote competent to assess whether a doctor is able to be registered in Australia. And they do this on the basis of looking at those authorities' ability to assess the competency of the doctor, their training, their experience, their knowledge, that sort of stuff. So the approved competent authority pathways are the United Kingdom. For the United Kingdom, the board will actually accept one of two things, both from the General Medical Council of the UK. So firstly, if you're a graduate of one of the UK medical schools and have gone through the postgraduate registration process with the GMC, then that will be accepted. Secondly, if you're an international doctor from somewhere else and have gone through the General Medical Council's PLAB process and being generally registered in the UK, that will also count. Canada. For Canada, the Medical Board of Australia recognises the Medical Council of Canada. The process is called the LMCC. The United States. For the US, if you're a local graduate or an international graduate, the USMLE will count towards Competent Authority Pathway in Australia regardless. The Republic of Ireland. For the Republic of Ireland, the board recognises the Medical Council of Ireland, but only for graduates of medical schools in the Republic of Ireland. So if you're an international graduate and you become registered in Ireland, that won't count. You'll have to go through a different pathway, possibly the standard pathway. Now, there is one other option. If you're from New Zealand and you're an international medical graduate and you become registered in New Zealand under the what's called the NZREX process, that will also count towards competent authority. Of course, if you're a medical graduate from a New Zealand medical school, then you don't have to worry. That's seen as equivalent to a graduate of an Australian medical school. So if you've got your general registration in New Zealand, you'll actually be able to just apply for general registration with the medical board in Australia. Now, I dare say at this point, some of you are thinking, what makes these countries competent and other countries not? What makes the UK, Republic of Ireland, Canada, and the United States competent authority countries and other countries with medical schools, other countries with doctors, basically every other country in the world, not? Well, there's actually not a lot of information about this issue on the medical board website, or even the AHPRA website, which overarches the medical board. A lot of it is probably due to historical reasons. You see, Before the national board, we had various state and territory medical boards in Australia, and they all tended to recognise these particular countries and give, let's call it, preferential treatment to them in terms of the graduates from those countries. Under the national law, the Medical Board of Australia has the power to grant provisional registration to doctors by either some sort of assessment of the equivalency of the training experience that they've gone through, or some form of further assessment. So the Medical Board of Australia has reviewed a number of countries or a number of authorities in countries and determined that basically the training, the experience, the knowledge that doctors go through in order to gain registration in those countries is equivalent to what would happen for a graduate here in Australia. I personally think that the name competent authority is an unfortunate one, for the reason that it implies that all those other countries that aren't listed as competent authority countries are incompetent. And it's just not the case that doctors from other countries are not capable of working as a doctor here in Australia. Perhaps a better term might be something like equivalent authority. But regardless, those are the rules in November 2018. So let's put a little bit more detail around it. You've probably worked out whether you are from a competent authority pathway country or not. So what else do you need to do and what else do you need to have? So as is the case with all these IMG pathways, the first thing is you need to establish your primary medical degree. So you need to establish that your primary medical degree is recognised by the Australian Medical Council, and as we know from other videos, the Australian Medical Council refers to the World Directory of Medical Schools, and there's a process for getting your primary degree verified through the Australian Medical Council. So you do have to interact with the AMC for that small part of the process. So then you obviously need to have completed your training in a country that's under one of these competent authorities. And the last thing is you actually do need to have a job offer. And again, that's quite common and standard basically for all these IMG pathways. So the competent authority pathway is a better pathway than the standard pathway. Why is that the case? Well, basically because there's no additional assessment. So you don't have to go through the Australian Medical Council certification process. Basically, once you've been registered under the competent authority pathway in a provisional registration post and satisfactorily complete that post in 12 months, you will generally be able to then progress quite speedily into general registration. So you bypass that AMC process, and that also makes you more attractive to employers because there are generally less hiccups along the way in terms of you gaining general registration. So there's no examinations, you just need to demonstrate satisfactory performance over 12 months. Well, actually, at least 47 weeks of full-time experience. And you do have to complete some supervisor reports. Here's an example of what one looks like from the Medical Board's website. So as I said, you still need a job offer. And one small thing to note, particularly if you're applying for a general practice position, as part of that job offer, you may have to sit through what's called a PESCI, a pre-employment structured clinical interview. I will make a video about PESCIs at some point when I get a chance. There's also quite a bit of paperwork that the poor employer has to fill out as well. So bear that in mind in terms of the progress and the process of the situation. There are certain requirements in terms of you having a supervisor. In fact, generally speaking, you will have to have more than one supervisor, a primary supervisor and a bunch of co-supervisors if possible. There are lots of rules about who can be a supervisor. Generally, they have to be a specialist in the area that you're working in. If, however, you're like working in a resident or junior house officer type role, they just have to be someone in a position of authority, like what's called a director of medical services. So that's like the key doctor in a hospital or health service, or maybe a director of training for pre-vocational trainees. There's also some limits about the number of doctors any one particular supervisor can supervise at any point in time. Generally, the maximum is 4, and that's probably pretty sensible. Oh, the other thing is that supervisors have to complete some online training that's on the Medical Board of Australia website. And the Medical Board has to also sign off on the position that you're going to work in, and in particular, the supervisory arrangements that you're going to work under. And you can't start the job until they do. Now, in terms of the position that you might be able to apply for and take up, this can actually vary quite a bit. Basically depends on where you are up to in your training in your own country. So for example, if you're a doctor from the UK and you've just completed the foundation year 2, then you're probably going to be applying for those junior health officer, resident medical officer, sort of unstream type roles in here in Australia, because that's the sort of level of training that you're at. Versus maybe you're sort of partway through your specialty training, in which case you would probably apply for a job in the equivalent specialist training pathway, or perhaps you're actually already a specialist in your own country, in which case you can apply for specialist type roles. Generally though speaking, they are the ones that are deemed area of need type positions, and you can actually start working in those roles under the competent authority pathway through provisional registration, whilst getting your specialist qualifications assessed by the relevant specialty college here in Australia. So in that case, obviously the person supervising you would be a specialist in your own area. Just remember that we do classify general practice as a specialty here in Australia, so if you're a GP from another country, then you can apply through the competent authority pathway for a specialist GP position, again whilst waiting to get your qualifications assessed. To recap, doctors who have qualifications from the competent authority countries can apply for a range of medical jobs in Australia that are relevant to their own particular postgraduate training and experience. You need appropriate qualifications from one of the 5 if we include New Zealand, competent authority countries. You need an offer of employment. You need to get your primary medical degree checked by the Australian Medical Council. You need to be approved by the Medical Board of Australia for a provisional registration post, and that includes having the appropriate supervisors and supervision in place. One final thing, at the end of that 12-month satisfactory performance, there needs to be a letter of recommendation go to the medical board. Now this has to be from someone in a position of authority, so it could be the Director of Medical Services, it could be the Director of Training, it would be, in a general practice setting, would be the practice principal or something like that. So that's the competent authority pathway. So onto the contest. So I've been doing these videos for about 8, maybe 9 months now, one a week. It does take a fair bit of effort. I think I've been learning things along the way, and looking at the stats from YouTube, I seem to be getting a little bit better at what I'm doing. But I can always benefit from some feedback. Now, some of you have been kind enough to give me some comments about the videos and the sort of things that you'd like to be hearing about, and that's great. But I thought I would just notch it up a gear today. So here's the idea. I'd just like you to give me a suggestion, a helpful one, about the videos. Maybe it's about the sort of content that you've been finding useful and you want to see more of. Maybe it's an idea for some sort of video that you'd like to see. Maybe it's just about the style of the video or the way I present. Is there too much of me on the camera? Do you want to see the computer screen a bit more? Do you want some more annotations? Do you want cartoons? I don't know, whatever it is. Let me know. Once I get 50 likes on this video, I will go through and read all the comments. To the person who I judge as giving me the most useful comment, I will give you a prize. The prize will be this. It'll be a free access to the medical CV course that I run. It's a course that's helped a lot of medical students, a lot of interns and residents, and international medical graduates improve their CV or resume so that it's something that's attractive to the Australian employer. So you'll get that for free. So on a final note, don't forget about the International Medical Doctors page that I've set up with a whole bunch of resources on it off the Advanced Med website. It's there. I'm going to collect all the YouTube videos in this niche together to sort of bunch them up so that you can find them usefully. And also a bunch of links to things like recruitment companies, the college's assessment landing pages, the medical board website, the AHPRA website, the AMC website, all that good stuff. So once again, thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.